ਵੀ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਊ Hey all. Oh yeah, I like the chat thing. I remember like COVID and remember I won't say fondly, but I remember aspects of COVID and how it just changed how a lot of us did things, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And one of the questions that I will be asking you at some point in time during this term is via Google form, and the question will be, uh, would this be a course that you would have taken if it had been on campus in person? I'm trying to collect data on this because we're trying to, as a campus, figure out how to best do summers. And I get the feeling from last summer, anyway, an awful lot of students said that they would have preferred online so they could get progress to degree, even if they're living somewhere else. Anyway, so we're going to collect data on that. But speaking of data, this is a class all about data. It's statistics, stat 312. I'm hoping I'm in the right place. Okay, with Zoom as a group, you didn't laugh out loud in the way that maybe some of you would have, even for just a pity laugh. But one thing I want to mention is I think the class experience will tend to go better if you're able to unmute your video. That's a horrible way to phrase it. If you're able to sort of show me your reactions, and I'm not saying I need to see you, but what I am saying is if I get a lot of people doing like this, I know maybe I should rephrase something. And similarly, if you have a question, do not hesitate to just raise your virtual hand, or frankly, if I don't respond quickly to that, just unmute and sort of interrupt me. Okay. So my shtick today is I'd love to go through a couple little basics and y'all be happy, and then answer some questions towards the end of the class right after we talk about the subject matter for a little bit. I was away in out overseas for just over a month and got back recently, and so for whatever reason, I feel as though maybe I missed a few of your emails or didn't respond promptly. And I did email y'all the syllabus recently, and over the weekend you had the chance to look that over. And if not, hopefully you're in Canvas and can shortly glance over that. And if you have any questions, we can answer those. What I want to do is to maybe start by just sharing a screen. And once I've done that, I'm going to dive right in and tackle things in a way that makes sense to me. But like I said earlier, definitely raise your hand or unmute and let me know if there's something that you would like to ask about or if you'd like to comment on. So thing. Okay, good. Got the participants up here so I can see if someone's trying to flag me in. Go. Okay, so yeah, Canvas. I am not a huge fan of Canvas, but learning management systems seem to be a thing that we do these days. And for better or worse, I'm okay, but not great at it. If you discover an error on my part, or if you discover something that you think I could do better, just let me know via email. I really appreciate that. But I want to sort of go through what I think is really important right now administratively, and then we'll see where we get to. So stat 312, that's who we are. That's what we do. And information, click the link to show up at class. Okay. If you want to, I forgot to put the syllabus online, damn it. But I emailed y'all, so that's cool. I will add the syllabus there shortly. Office hours, I noticed that there was no one there between 11:25 and 11:45 this morning. So I figure I'm waiting there 20 minutes. If no one shows up, I might very well leave. So if you know you're going to be showing up at office hours and will need to be late for whatever reason. Oh,
like a drawer and a little like other stuff underneath.
okay. So I didn't quite hear that, but it sounds like one of you unmuted, perhaps with a question. And it looks like maybe it was if you have the question, just chime in right now. And if it was like an errant unmute, that's okay. We'll move forward. Okay, so if you know you're going to be a little bit late and not able to be there in the first, say, 15 minutes of that 25-minute slot, and you want me to sort of stay around, just be sure to let me know you'll be here, but be late. I don't know that I've chosen office hour time slots that are perfect for you. We can work with that to do something that's better for you if need be. I try to get something right before class and something sort of right after the second class that I do in the day, or right after our class, or right before that second class I teach. So Mondays and Thursdays are sort of a mirror image of each other. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, in case you have like a Monday Tuesday class, then presumably, I mean a Monday Wednesday class. Presumably, if office hours interfere with you on Monday, then they wouldn't on Wednesday. And then Friday, there's always that time slot, 11:30 till 12:30 or so. There's a book for the class. I have no idea if y'all bought it through the bookstore or haven't bought it or what, but I do know that there are copies of this book widely available online. And so I would encourage you to get a copy of that somehow. I am friends with one of the authors, and I know one of the others. Oh, that came out so poorly. I'm sorry. I know two of the authors, and so I would appreciate if you would actually buy it. But certainly, if you need to get a copy right quick, you can probably download it, and then while you're waiting for your one to show up in person, you could go ahead and use that. Exams for the course, they're going to be just the regular Zoom online exams through Canvas, which means some of the questions will be something like multiple choice. Some of them will be fill in the blank. And in a lot of the questions will be short answer. And short answer means you type whatever you want to type. Or I will say always this for a test. If there's a question that you don't want to answer by typing, yeah, literally typing, just write out your answer on a piece of paper, scan that paper and upload it with your exam, and I can look over your answer. There's one student who a summer ago in this virtual format didn't answer anything by typing. And they did a great job. They just wrote every answer out on a piece of paper and scanned that and uploaded that within the time window that the test allowed. I think the benefit of writing your answers out, including some calculations that you may have done by hand with a calculator and a pencil, is that if you end up with an answer that's from out of left field, so to speak, for me, I can then look at what you did and say, okay, they got that point. They understood this third thing. The fourth thing of the five things in a row, that's where they like made a total brain fart and they divided where they should have multiplied. So I can give you considerably more appropriate partial credit for work if you think that you want to write anything with an equation on paper and upload it. Okay. Any questions about exams first before we move forward? Okay. Things to download at some point in time. There's a data for the class that I'm providing for you. Text data, and that's sort of for the JMP computer package that I use and encourage other students to use for statistics. It's really good for learning, and it seems a bit better than some of the other options that we have. If you want to sort of talk about why Python or R is better than JMP, you're probably right for some people. It's not, however, the best for simply learning stuff for a person who doesn't already have experience in object-oriented programming. So I'm going to use JMP. Go ahead and download it. You can get that through Cal Poly. There are some instructions for how to do that. Download the data I'll be using in class. Download data from the text. You'll find that helpful for some of the homework exercises. Also, useful tools for you. Yeah, sometimes Wolfram Alpha will be helpful. You're always welcome to use that for an exam. Finding the answer to integrals may be something you just don't want to do by hand, especially if it's a weird function. But if you got an integral calculator that you could use, you could type in the appropriate values. You'll see I'll use it in class. It's easy to work with. JMP itself, I'm giving you access to a collection of tables. If you've taken a stat class before, you know about the normal table or a T table or a chi-square table, maybe an F table. Those are all here, and we'll find that those are useful starting in, well, shoot, probably about Wednesday of this week. And then on a weekly basis, I'm going to sort of upload content that may be helpful for you to keep track of where we're at. For example, Monday today, we're doing that, and then sort of getting into a little bit of the content in chapter 1. And there are homework problems assigned right there. I will eventually put solutions online for you. Tomorrow, we're going to sort of go a little bit deeper into the material, talk about distributions, theoretical shapes, if you will, of possible variables that you're trying to understand more about. And we'll talk about normal, exponential distributions and additional homework problems. And you're wondering when those homeworks are due. I think if you go over to where it's up, okay, come on, up front. You're going to see homework 1A. It's just a repetition of, oh, here are the problems that were assigned on Monday, and then these are due to on Tuesday. Those will be assigned. Turn them in by Wednesday at about midnight. Usually, almost always, what I try to do is make sure that you have one full 23-hour period to look over the textbook, look over lecture notes, look over anything that you've got to work on problems, then come and ask in class about the questions. And so because out of chapter 1, section 2, those problems tie to what we'll talk about in a bit today. If you have questions about any of these problems before like class tomorrow, ask at the beginning of class time. Okay, in that same sense, the problems assigned Tuesday, ask about those before class starts, or not before class starts, right at the beginning of class on Wednesday, and that will give you a chance to revise your answers before you need to turn them in Wednesday at about midnight. Okay, so go back to here, and I think because I didn't upload the syllabus, I'll just show it to you, but I can't click a link. I'm sorry, I can't click that link right there. But the syllabus that you have access to from the email over the weekend, in most of your cases, not all of your cases, but most of your cases, is right here. And again, it provides sort of links to sort of get into class or office hours in the same way that Canvas does. I really, again, don't love Canvas. I do like PDFs. And so because that, just view the syllabus as important. I suppose I'll try and do my best to upload things into Canvas as need be, but always look to the syllabus if you have any questions. Okay. Okay, so something that you can read. I'm assuming y'all can read. And then, okay, a book to get. I'm assuming either you can or you will get the book. If you have any questions about those two things, now's a great time. And I keep looking at my 1, 2, 3 screen, so sorry if it's distracting with me looking over here off to the side. Okay, I'm seeing no questions. That's cool. I love fractions sometimes, and someone always will say, well, you know, what percent of, I suspect you could convert 1/6 into a percentage and get like 16.67%. So homework, y'all should get pretty good scores on that. The lab activities, usually scores are perfect because those are graded based on whether you work through the content with your classmates on a pretty much daily or every other day basis, depends on the section of the material that we're in, but turn that in before the next class session starts, and then that will give you the opportunity to ask questions again before we move forward. It looks as though the first exam is coming up relatively soon, August 7 on chapters 1 and 2, and chapters 3 through 5, August 16th. Those seem, oh my gosh, it's not even August yet, but yeah, August 7 does sound soon. If you flip to the back page, you get a sense for the calendar and Administrivia today. Move a little bit forward into the material. let's talk about the exam that's August, if you will, 7th. That's when it's due. We're going to go through review content. Okay, there will be sample exams that you could look over and ask questions about. We'll do that Tuesday, and the material that we're going to cover for the exam is up through the Monday class session. We'll talk about answers to review questions before we move forward into new content. Okay, and then you'll probably draw a mental line on your paper or in your brain and say, well, this new content in chapter 3 won't be the focus of the exam at all. There will be nothing on chapter 3 on the exam that's due on Wednesday of week 2. However, I reserve the right to give content in chapter 3, sections 1 and 2, that will reinforce the material in chapters 1 and 2 that will be on your exam. So I'm not saying don't show up. I'm not saying don't pay attention. I'm saying it's different content, but there will be built into that chapter 3, section 1 and 2, some review of what you're going to need to know for the exam. And I'll turn the exam on like right after class is over on that Tuesday, and you'll have until midnight of Wednesday to do it. In that same sense, for the second exam, we're going to have through chapter 5, okay, content, and Wednesday we'll go over the last little bits and then review questions if you do have them, and then the exam will be turned on right after class is over on Wednesday, and then by Thursday midnight is when you're going to need to turn in the exam. But in Thursday in class, we'll be moving on into something new entirely in chapter 6. So what I was always asked about the final exam, and the final exam, literally, I've got it structured, set up in Canvas to be 2 individual 1.5-hour exams. Each of the midterm exams is a 50-minute test, so 50 minutes for each of those. For the final exam, it's 2 separate 1.5-hour exams. The first of those 1.5-hour exams covers material that we will have discussed in chapter 6 through 10 and 11. Only material since exam 2 will be on one part of that final exam. So the one part, which is like, I think called exam 3, it's basically only new stuff. Okay. And then there's another part of the comprehensive edition, which is material evenly spaced across all of the content of the whole course. And so that will give equal weight across all of the different sections of the material, and you won't see any one chapter emphasized any more or any less in the final grade than any of the other chapters. Okay, so another nice thing about this calendar is even though it's a tentative calendar, it will tell you about where we're going to be going and what's going to happen. And if we do find the need to revise, and that's always the case towards the end of the term, if we need to like skip one section perhaps, or sort of bump a chunk of material into the next day, I'll update the syllabus and let you know with the updated version where we're at. And so if you need to miss a day for whatever reason, you know what to read, and you're all good. Okay. Some rules for life that are suggestions, really, like be polite to other people, diligent, honest, aware, you know, the sort of stuff that you can read elsewhere. There's one other thing that I should have mentioned, and I will do that right now, and that is if you click your way into like the week 1 Monday and Tuesday, you're going to spot that there are no videos from past terms. I've not taught 312 in an entirely Zoom format previously, okay? But because we're recording this session, and you'll probably notice it when you log in, it says, hey, we're recording you. What I'm gonna do is once Cal Poly sort of sends me an email that updates, okay, yeah, the recording is available, I will make a link and put a link to that absolutely right there. So you're going to see, oh, look, you know, right around where it says, hey, here's what we did. Either it will be a click link there, or it'll be like the first thing. Here's the video that you could watch if you needed to miss. And I know some of you are on schedules where you'll be away for part of the summer for one reason or another. or if you want to rewatch any particular chunk of material. Okay? And like for Tuesday's class session, I'm going to, well, and this is from 2 years ago. I will be putting any notes that I'm creating, okay, by writing on a piece of paper or whatever I'm going to do. Anything I write down, okay, I will then put right here next to the day in a PDF form. Okay, so it's like if something goes by real quickly and on the video and you think I don't want to go back and look that over, I will have a screenshot that I'll put there for you and you could use that to check your notes. Okay, your notes will probably be pretty good and I will probably make errors from time to time with my notes, and I appreciate that there's always some of you who look over the notes between classes and then ask good questions like, didn't you mean 2.51 instead of 2.15? Dyslexia happens. Things are written down sometimes incorrectly. And so when y'all as a group keep me honest, that's better for y'all as a group. And I really appreciate if you raise those issues and maybe do that during class as well as maybe send an email. Okay. But doing it during class, make sure I get it corrected and get it corrected promptly and when you can all see. Okay. So that's about it in terms of administrative trivial matters. Maybe I shouldn't call them trivial because they sort of do matter. But let me close with one story, and that's from a Stat 5 13 from 2 years ago in a summer online Zoom only format. There were 4 graduate students in Stat 513 that term, and they were in 4 different areas of engineering, of all things. And I found out that they were cheating on the exam, and that sucked for everyone. Me, because I had to fill out some paperwork and turn them into the Office of Students' Rights, Responsibilities, We Catch Cheaters, but also because they ended up with a 0 on that test that they cheated on. And that just sucked for their grade because they ended up, one of them who should have had an A ended up with like a C. And then a couple of them ended up with D's because, they got a 0 on one of the tests. It really drives down your grade considerably if a sixth of your grade is filled in with a 0, as opposed to, they didn't feel confident, they said, before the exam. And so they were cheating because they were worried that their 70% understanding wouldn't be good enough. Trust me, 70% beats a 0 in your grade. Okay, so with that in mind, I just hate it when students do that. But one of the things I do on a regular basis, because I've spotted this with regularity, is I draw or get data out of Canvas to find out when y'all started the exams and who gave what answer. And I can often track, literally, it's sort of a cool thing. You can track when people are making changes in their answers. And the way I caught these students is one student was typing along, and another student at the same exact physical time was typing an answer. And I know they communicate with each other because the first student's answer was then changed to be word for word identical to the second student's answer. It's almost like they did a cut and paste right into a text. And then, cut and paste right back, or actually, I guess a copy and then a paste. But the upshot is they all admitted it and they got a lower grade, and it sucks for them. But I have learned about students enough that I do need to check on a regular basis these sort of things, because there's someone who will be attempting to cheat in any given course, and I just hope it's not you. He says to everyone in a humorous fashion. Okay. Any questions about anything related to administrative matters at all? Huh. I am absolutely surprised. And usually at this point in time in the term, I will say I'll pause until there are 3 questions. But right now I'm saying, there's got to be at least one.
I have one question.
Yeah, Jack, what's up?
So I'm taking this class as a grad student. Are there any policies that are different for that?
542 is right now the equivalent of 312.
Okay. Thank
in
you.
every way, shape, and form. Now, what's your area of study, Jack?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay. There are some mechanical students who were in my Stat 513 class last spring, and literally 513, which is the second class that follows this one, and 313, they formed together. And at one point in time, they were co-taught, but then they sort of bifurcated. They've branched off, if you will. Okay. Yeah, great question, Muska. And if I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly, I am someone who gets my name pronounced incorrectly a lot because it's Rain, R-E-I-N, but it looks like the German word Rhine. Not R-H-I-N-E, but R-E-I-N is pronounced Rhine in German. But Rain was originally a Finnish name, and it probably had a trailing vowel like arena. However you want to slice it, it's pronounced Rain, but people will pronounce it Rhine, or worse, Rains. That bothers me. I don't know why it does, but if I'm gonna get bothered over petty things like someone mispronouncing my name, I really want to be sensitive to making sure I get your names correctly. So Muska, if I got it wrong, let me know. PowerPoints during lectures. I'm lucky if I can put together a lecture. Okay, I'm totally lying. This is a much better class when I move at the exact same thing. Okay. If I'm doing the exact same thing in my brain as what I'm writing down, instead of me preparing something in advance for this class, which involves a lot of typesetting, and then if I feel like the group of you all aren't quite tracking with what I prepared, and then me trying to sort of differentiate between meeting the needs of the students who are wanting something that's not written down. PowerPoints with equation classes are not as good as just write it out by hand. But yeah, Arissa, exams, totally open book, open note. Oh, internet? Oh, great question. I like to have exams such that you in theory are allowed to access your book, your own notes. Anything I put online on Canvas, that's fair game. But please do not use the internet as a whole, especially Chat GPT, because those answers are just the worst and often easy to spot as wrong. There was a student last summer who had a couple issues. One of them was he tried to take one of the exams on a flight between Manila and Los Angeles, which I gotta ask about the wisdom of that choice. Just talk to me if there's going to be something inconvenient. Don't do something that you think is going to work for a test, like take the test on a transcontinental flight during the middle of the night. But yes, he used Chat GPT to generate an answer. And it's easy for stat classes sometimes to spot that, because if I have sort of an engineering oriented problem talking about the hardness of a spray coating, for example, and I'm going to give you some details in a real life data set, and if a person does a cut and paste, and then their answer focuses on telling me what hardness is and what it means, and doesn't focus at all on the actual details of how the calculations actually make sense, is so yeah, open access to pretty much anything, but just please don't use the internet in general. Wikipedia is a horrible place to find answers. And then there are those places where they have the people who are able to provide exam answers on the fly, or if they're you're using a past exam that they can they've got the past exam uploaded and you can pay for that sort of thing. It's just a bad thing to do for so many reasons. But yeah, there is that one story of the guy, the physics professor, who literally set his students up to sort of identify themselves as cheaters, not at Cal Poly, but I think it was at Monterey Bay. He put online a question in as a student, like, hey, here's a question I've got that I'm working on. How do I answer this question? And he had other of his graduate students upload answers that were wrong, and then they sort of like all chimed in saying this is the right answer. And so, the algorithm figured out, oh, this is the right answer. And so when students provided this answer, which was A, technically wrong, B, nonsensical, and anyone who knows anything about the material should know it's nonsense. But C, looked like it had authority because a lot of people said, oh, yeah, that's a good answer. He identified them all as having cheated using that one particular cheating platform. I'm probably not going to do that, but it would be fun to try sometime. That's for sure. Or discouraging as heck. Okay. Mosca, I think that I'm not going to dignify that question with, oh, for sure, it will be really helpful. But I would say that this is a course which, if you combine it with the intro to data science courses, it would put you heading that direction. But also sort of folks who are taking finance courses and then Stat 416, the time series course, I think you'd be well suited. Okay, so we're drifting away from questions that are clearly related, and I apologize. I'm looking at some of the questions in the chat. I don't always do that really well. Anthony asked a question. Can I write work on an iPad by hand and submit it? Heck yeah. That's what I actually encourage students to do. If you have the ability to just write your answers somewhere, as long as you can save it as a PDF and upload that, that works perfectly. Okay. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting your answers to me, and we're all happy. Last call for questions. Okay, so what I want to do is to switch gears now and to just take over here and start writing. And I'm going to put together some sort of notes that I'll attempt to remember to take screenshots of as we go. And if it looks like I might forget to take a screenshot, I don't even know if you'll know how I'm doing that. But if it looks like I may be forgetting to take a screenshot, definitely remind me to do that so I can upload these. Okay. So the way I like to view statistics is it's the science of, it's the study of how we can answer questions with uncertain data. Okay, what are the questions going to be about? Usually they're about a, oh, darn it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I had the ability to, okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, usually the questions are about a population, if you will. And I apologize that my writing is not great. It's my left arm that was broken, but my handwriting with my right arm is still bad. Okay, so there's a population of interest. They're individuals you care about, and they're just like hanging out in this box. Okay. And you might be thinking about, oh, countries of the world. One of the examples that I'm going to bring up in a little bit, the population is like the 180, 190 countries in the world themselves. And from the population, we're going to take a sample, and we're going to obtain information about some of those countries. Okay, we're sampling to get our sample, and we have ways of trying to use the sample to try and infer something or learn something about the population. So to sort of go with a quick version of this, and this is going to be a little awkward because we won't define the term histogram until next time. Okay, I'm going to say, let's take a screenshot there, and then I'm going to sort of clear that. No, oh well, too bad, too sad. So late. Okay, so here we go. Where are my data countries? Have those here. Nope, that's catfish. Okay, so here are data on a collection of countries in the world. You can see, and this is JMP. I'm going to sort of, in the lab activities, I'm going to build into the lab activities descriptions of how you can use JMP to achieve your goal. Okay, so right now I'm sort of showing you what I'm doing. And I apologize if you're saying, hey, I want to be able to do this myself. If you've downloaded JMP, installed it already, I'm sure you can follow along with me, but I just want to show you now approximately how easy it is. So you can see we've got data here on 22 different countries. You can click on a column to highlight it, and that's, like giving you information. You could also click on a row, and this second row happens to be entitled Australia. And you can see in Australia, there's 2 numbers as well as a country name provided. And I lost all of you. I can't see you anymore. Hold on. Let me. Okay, there we go. I can see you all again. Okay, so we've got information in Australia about the life expectancy, and this is when the data were collected. I'll highlight a row and a column, and it says, oh yeah, here's your number. 76.5 years was the average age at which we expected Australians to die when these data were collected. And I believe these are data collected from the 1970s. And we also have information about the number of people per television in the country, which seems to be a goofy way to phrase it, but people per television, there's 2 people for every TV. Okay. In the US, you're thinking, oh, 1.3 person per TV. If you go to a place like Morocco, it would be 21 people per every television. Okay, at least in the 1970s when the data are collected. Okay, so if you view these 22 countries as a sample from that greater population of countries, we might want to learn something about countries as a whole from just the 22 we've seen. Okay, what would you possibly want to learn about as a whole? Well, one of the things that we might want to learn about the population is about the shape of the distribution. Now, I'm sketching out a histogram here as though that's something you know. Most of you who have seen histograms, often when you get an exam back from an instructor, you see a picture of, okay, here's how many people had scores in which range. Okay, you might want to know about things like the average of the population or even the standard deviation of that population. We, however, don't want to bother with going and getting information on the number of people per TV for every one of the 190 countries on the planet. Instead, I'm going to take that sample and I'm going to get from the sample, I'm going to get information about the distribution, maybe a picture, a histogram, if you will. And that's tomorrow in class. Stem and leaf diagram, that's today. And even the average of values that we saw from our sample or the standard deviation of the values that we saw from our sample. So we can use that sample and hopefully from this information, we're going to say we believe the population is like that. Okay, so this is, if you will, what we call inference. We'd like to infer something or learn something about the whole population from just the individuals in the sample. Okay. This class is probability and statistics. To really do a development of the inferential methods, we sort of have to understand the answer to probability questions like, literally, if we were to sample in some way at random from the population, can you tell me how the random sampling has anything to do with what sort of values I'd see for my picture or the stem and leaf diagram or the average? What averages are even possible based on information about the average and the standard deviation in the population? So probability talks about how do we get a sample, and inference is how do we get from a sample to our population itself. Okay, so I'm gonna sort of hold on. You know what? I don't see the thing that I used to see here on a regular basis. Okay, that's fine. Let's try that. One more. Okay, nope. Okay, so that's good enough for me for now to draw that. Let's get back into our example, and our friend was over here. the number of TVs per person. You might be wondering about the number of TVs people per TV across the different countries. Life expectancies, these are all sort of understandable values. Probably no one's ever walked up to you and said, hey, how many people per TV where you are from? Inside GMP, we could just analyze the distribution. And this is about what you're going to be doing for homework exercises tonight. You're not going to use GMP for it, and you're just going to develop some pictures. But I want to know about the people per TV, and I'm going to do like a drag and drop operation. The information I'd like to know about is almost always called Y inside JMP, and these other things we don't have to worry about. And usually you end up clicking OK because that looks okay. And what you end up seeing is that distribution. And I don't like the way it's displayed here. I usually like to click the stack button to sort of show the histogram oriented horizontally. That's more traditional. It matches our textbook. And we get information about things like, well, in the 0 to 50 people per television range, you can hover over that and then you find out, oh, look, 16 countries are in the 0 to 50 people per TV range. And you might notice if you look closely enough, I'm sorry for those of you who have screens where you can't zoom in really close, but notice it says per TV, and it sort of got an open bracket around the 50, but a closed bracket around the 0. That literally means in the range 0 up to, but not including 50, there's 16 countries. However, there's 2 countries in the 50, including 50 possibly, up to, but not including 100 people per TV range. Okay, so you get information, a picture of how the data look like. Histogram, again, tomorrow we'll talk about that. Things like the average or the mean and the standard deviation are given to you. JMP has the ability to, once you've created via analyze distribution, you have a lot of options. You can say, well, for the analysis as a whole, macro big things, or for this individual chunk of the analysis, the per TV, do we want to look at maybe something else? We could look at maybe a stem and leaf diagram, and that's indeed something on our list of topics for class today. So I'm going to turn on the stem and leaf diagram and look over here and see what that looks like. And that's a little bit hard to read, perhaps, but this down at the bottom is a bit of a hint. And that is to say, if I see a 0 before the line and a 0 after the line, that's a 0. So you might be able to guess that a 0 before the line and then a 7 after, okay, might represent a 7, or a 1 before the line, and then an 8 after is going to be like 18 or maybe 180. I don't know. 0, 0 represents 0. So that is sort of hard to read. And the question is, are these numbers here zeros? Well, they certainly are. That's a 0 followed by a 0, another 0, 0, another 0. Shoot, there's 7 of them. But 0, 1, these are 1s. And in total, in the lower zeros, there's exactly 10 of them. So 10 of the numbers are either 0 or something like a 1. There's also 0, 2. There's 3 that are 2. There are 2 3s. There's a 0, 4, a 0, 7, a 0, 9. And that would be a 90. Okay, we can see the numbers go in the 50 to 100 range. There's exactly 2 of them, as we moused over earlier. There's exactly 2. It seems as though the first digit, the stem digit, if you will, we've divided it up into a lot of consecutive leaves. Those are the next digit in the number that we're considering. Okay, and so a stem digit of 0 and then a leaf digit of 9, we know it's like a 9. Okay, is it a 9 or a 90? Okay, we know from this situation that it is indeed a 90 because there were some in the 90 range, and the distribution doesn't have a maximum value of 23, but rather 250 or so. So we know that this leaf each of these leaves is going to correspond to a 10. This is the number in the 100 place. So you'll see sometimes in a stem and leaf diagram, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves for each stem digit. Sometimes there's exactly 1 leaf per stem digit. Sometimes there's 2, but it's always got to be 1, 2, or 5 leaf digits per stem. And any of the leaf digits corresponds to an actual data value. Okay, let me look at a different distribution, and it's sort of another thing that I consider sort of a fun data set. Let's see if I can find it over here, and it was not revealing itself. Okay, so here, there, and okay, so I don't know if you go to Alaska often, but I've once, and there's a town named Nenana, which is on the Nenana River, and dating back to right around 1900, they've been taking bets on when the ice will break. They originally sort of strung a rope across the river, the Nenana River, from one side to another, and they put like a, well, today it's like an orange traffic cone in the middle, and the rope has 2 things that are bolted into place, and so the cone will eventually sort of move, and if it moves past where the rope is, you know the ice is broken. And if it hasn't yet moved past, the ice has not yet broken. So they measure when the ice breaks by this method, and you can take bets on that on the internet today. Every winter they have a bet for when the ice will break, and you can buy a particular minute, or if they've switched over to seconds, you can buy a particular second. And if you pay $5 to play the game and you end up as the closest, you win the pot with thousands of people all over the internet betting on when the ice will break in this one particular river. So that's actually not the point of the story, but the point of the story is we have data on when the ice broke at this particular river location dating back to 1917. And I've got about 193 years worth of data here. I should probably get the rest of the data set. But when does the ice break in Nenana? Again, under Analyze, the distribution, we can see what we want to look at. Well, the breakup date. Okay, Y is what we want to analyze. Click OK. And you see a histogram. Again, tomorrow we'll look at the histogram definition. But it looks sort of like, okay, sometimes it's a long time since midnight of December 31st. This is the number of days. That's somewhere in late May, or under 110. That's like a full month earlier in April. Okay, so you can see the average and the standard deviation. And like we talked about, if you want to turn on the stem and leaf diagram, it's there for you. And we see here, in this case, an 11 followed by a 0 is 110. So 110 days, 111 days, 113 days, 114 days. A really typical value is going to be found like right there in the middle, maybe 127 days or so is a real typical value for the number of days since the ice, since December 31st, when the ice did its breaking. The reason I brought this example to your attention is you can spot in JMP's graphing tools, okay, a graph builder is sort of a nice thing. It will allow us to sort of quickly say, tell me, is there a relationship between when, what year it is, and when the ice breaks? And here I don't see a strong relationship, but to be honest, it looks like there is a downward trend. Would y'all agree that it looks like a downward trend? Like I see 4 of you are nodding. Okay, cool. Is it a downward trend that's steep enough that you're convinced that it will continue downwards for one reason or another? That's a tougher question. And that's a question that we'll literally be able to answer in week 5. We're going to tackle problems answering questions using data. We've got data on both the year and also when the ice broke. And if there is a trend that's steep enough, you would expect that it would continue. Some of you might be thinking global warming. Sure, fine, science. I'm saying even without that background information, you might say the data alone here is downwards overall, or you might say early on it's relatively flat, but then later on it gets steeper and downwards. That might be a reasonable interpretation. But overall, is it going down steeply enough towards the end that you're convinced that it's a real downwards trend? We're going to be able to answer questions like the following. If I collected data on the breakup dates and it wasn't related to the year of the winter that we're measuring the breakup date in, if there wasn't a trend, how likely is this trend line to be this steep just due to luck in the sampling process? If the answer is 1 in 1,000 chance that we'd see something this steep, it makes sense to say maybe there really is a downward trend. But if there's like a 1 in 10 chance that I could see data like this, even if the population weren't with a true downward trend, I might not believe that there is a downward trend. Okay, so that's 1 o'clock, time for me to be done. What I'm going to do is what I'm going to do every day, and I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to stop the recording. And the reason is that way I will be only recording things that you're all here for. But